Awesome. Okay, so hello everyone listening out there in the world. This is the podcast, the film production podcast again. The jingle's playing, guys, as always. Yeah, we can't hear it, but yeah,
No, we can't hear it.
It's happening, guys.
It's all in our minds.
Today we have some very special guests. Our first famous guests. We have Papa Biggs and Son One. We've also got Dylan and Jules here hanging out. We're gonna. I don't know what the sort of the plan is. I've got a few bits and bobs we can chat about. But yeah, I don't know. Should we start with like just talking about podcasts in general? Like, so you guys have recently. So the Papa Biggs show has recently hit its 50th episode. I know you said it was unofficial 50th, but it has hit its 50th episode. I'm going to count that as official canon law that it is 50 episodes. So how have you guys how have you guys developed your podcast? How has that sort of gone for you?
Well, that's a good question. It all started when a friend of mine who set up an internet radio station, which was primarily a music radio station. And she said she'd been going for a few months, and it was all music based. It was all entirely music based, and it was all specifically a type of music that was non-mainstream. It was punk, it was ska, it was reggae, it was all different kinds of stuff, but non-mainstream music. And it was becoming very popular. But she wanted some talk-based stuff on there. And so she asked me, because she knew I liked to talk. I think that's why she asked me. And I said, well, I'll come up with something. So we put our heads together, didn't we? We tried we came up with some also. We thought that maybe a family oriented, because we looked at the demographics. She talked about who her show was for, etc., etc. And it was all farts like me. It was, it was blokes in their 40s and 50s, basically, because that was the demographic. So I said, right, well, what about a family-based show? So, people that age will probably highly likely have family, children, maybe get younger people into that kind of music. So that was my idea. So primarily, it was originally sort of about 60-70% music.
I'd say even 90% music.
Yeah, it was a lot of music. So, and just a little bit of talk in between. Whose dog's barking? That's not mine. We don't.
Sorry, I'm sat right next to the window, and I think it's just the neighbours. Sorry.
That's all right. This is very interesting radio I'm doing here, Dylan, and you've got dogs barking on the top. It's really considerate. So it was primarily music with all this kind of gubbins in between, and we didn't really know what we were doing. But the idea was we would have jingles. And Harris here, Son One, as he's known on the radio, did all the jingles. And you create them all from scratch, don't you? Yeah. And then he tells me what to do, as you do, because I just turn up and start talking. That's all I do, and have my name on it, which is great. I can take all the credit. And then we started to put together. So I send it a playlist. I'd do the music, I'd do the playlist, and it had to be approved by Karen. This lady's name was, who ran the station. And then we put this pilot together, and she absolutely loved it. And then we had a weekly live radio show for an hour on this internet radio station called ursatsradio.co.uk. Don't go looking for it. It stopped broadcasting as of when was that? About just before the turn of the year.
About a year ago, wasn't it?
Was it that long ago? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Of course it will be. Yeah.
What happened?
She just her own job, because she was doing it part time with a couple of other people, just became too much, even though it was becoming really, really successful. And she had quite a few different shows on there. I mean, we even had merch. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can get a Papa Biggs mug and a Papa Biggs t-shirt.
Do you wanna plug the Papa Biggs merch site down?
How'd you do that? What is it? Do you remember it?
I do, yeah.
Go on then. He knows all the websites and stuff.
cafepress.co.uk/Ursats
There you go. And you can get a Son One t-shirt or a Son Two t-shirt or a Papa Biggs t-shirt, depending who's your favourite. Because obviously me and Harris do the show, but occasionally we are lucky enough in World War. It may even happen as we speak. As you see, there's a door behind us to this room that we do the podcast, and he might just burst in. That's Son Two, and he'll be eating something, and he'll come out with some little pearl of wisdom, and then leave again. So we always leave that in, even though he just bursts in when we're recording and things like that. So we always used to leave that in. So so Harris even created his own jingle for him, didn't he? A Son 2 jingle, which which happens. No, it's fairly less frequent nowadays, but it's still it still occasionally will come on. So it started there, and we run that for how long? The live show?
3 years.
Yeah, and we had the breakfast slot, which was, as you know, radio people, is the prime slot.
Prime time slot.
That's right. So we had the breakfast show. In fact, I've still got a mouse mat. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, you can't see that because it's blurred. So it's a mouse mat with someone and the breakfast show and everything like that, which Karen gave us as a present. So that was lovely. Anyway, so we did it for many years, and then, as you say, mentioning the unofficial 50th episode. Do you want to explain why it's unofficial?
Well, it's actually episode 136, I believe, but we didn't start putting it on as a podcast until we had professional microphones. That's it, really.
Which started as the first episode, right? Which is your first episode on the on Anchor FM and on various other sites. If people don't know where this podcast is, just search the Papa Big Show and you will find it. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on Anchor FM, it's on everywhere. Much like the film production podcast, it is literally everywhere. You can't get rid of it.
It's like
people have tried.
Yeah, people have tried. They've failed every time to remove
courses of antibiotics. Nothing will get rid of it. Okay. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's dead easy to get a podcast now, and it's dead easy to set one up, and it's dead easy. I mean, there are loads of them about, and it's really, really good that people are finding voices and putting together different things, and especially in these times, as we know, when people have got a lot of time on their hands to do things. So you can actually create your own, or you can listen to all these different ones. And it's really important, actually, because especially with a lot of people, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of students, especially at this moment, are stuck on their own. Yes. And they're, locked up, and they've just got nowhere to go. So it's important to have that sense of connection. And I'm not picking it up into something that isn't, but it is nice. There's something more intimate about radio than any other form of medium that just makes it more of a connection between audience and the actual person actually on the other end as well. And of course, you do have ways of interacting with them, even though they may not be live, which ours isn't anymore, but we still have ways of interacting with our audience. We do the social media thing, because I never remember them. What have we got?
Twitter.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah. YouTube.
Yeah,
we got a YouTube channel where you've got because we do regular features, and that's something else that you asked a question about how it's evolved over the years. Well, like I say, as well as the music, which obviously we don't do now, but it's evolved with regular features as well. So one of the regular features we do is trailers, so where we review film trailers. And we put together, Harris puts together a playlist and puts them on YouTube, so you can listen along and watch them as you are listening along as we explain and review the trailers to the films, because we put together a playlist on YouTube.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
very interesting.
Well, it makes it more interactive, doesn't it? And you can actually see things. I mean, we don't use a webcam. This is unusual for us. We don't like using webcams. Obviously, he's a shy 17-year-old.
Yeah. Yes,
he just turned 17. Yes, I know how my children are, and it is. There are visuals there, and like I said, we do have other social media as well. I think we've even got Pinterest, probably got MySpace or something. We've been doing it that long. SoundCloud. Have we got SoundCloud?
I think we do.
Do we? Okay, that's news to me. All right. So yeah, it's just different ways for audiences to interact, and hopefully you'll get that kind of feedback. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Was there a question? It was so long ago I just started talking.
Yeah, I mean, there was a question, and it sort of dissolved into time, but that's fine. We can just sort of. That was great. That was beautiful. That's perfect. So we know a bit about your guys' podcast. I thought, since you just mentioned how you have regular features, how about we do one of your guys' regular features and like review a trailer of some description? I don't know how well we've actually like planned this. Not particularly well.
They say Infinity War was the most ambitious crossover.
Yeah, there you go. This is a true a colliding of worlds. we could. I mean, one trailer that I feel like maybe we could speak more generally about film trailers.
Yeah, okay.
You guys have watched quite a lot,
Yeah,
so
we
we
do.
don't have to watch a particular one. Do you have like? Because I definitely do have a massive problem with film trailers in that they always show way too much of the film in the trailers, and
I love it when that
always
happens.
spoils the film every single time. There's only a couple of examples where you can have like where it's not the case. But I don't know if you guys have a differing opinion to that. But I hate film trailers. I despise them. I try and avoid them.
You said before we came on air, Charlie, that you listen to Papa Pigs all the time. Clearly you don't, because you would know the answer to that question if you did. All right? So
I apologize.
we hate, I'm only joking, we hate trailers, all right? Which is interesting that we actually review trailers all the time. It's very rare that we'll get one we like in terms of its content and the way it's put together, because as you rightly say, Charlie, they tell and show far too much of the product. Teasers tend to be okay. Teasers tend to be okay. They just give you a little glimpse about maybe a bit of the genre, maybe a little taste of what the story might be, and draw you in. And that's what a trailer should be. I remember having a really interesting conversation with film director Mike Hodges, who directed Get Carter, excuse me, and Flash Gordon way back. Yeah, so some camp classics. Well, yeah. I mean, I've been lucky enough with the film festival to interview some very interesting people, and we had a really great conversation about trailers because he absolutely despised them and had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with them, and never did. He said the filmmakers themselves don't have anything to do with the trailers. They are created by ad people. And that is exactly who does it. They have nothing whatsoever to do with it. He says, I absolutely despise them. They ruin my film. He says, we were lucky enough in the 60s and 70s. And if you look at those original trailers back then, not like early cinema, but 60s and 70s cinema, and it doesn't matter which region or country you look at, they created little mini films. That it wasn't just clips from the film. It was an entirely new product, which they wrote and direct and gave you a glimpse into the world of that film or the character of that film. And there were great little devices that were like little showpieces and little short films. And he showed us one that he did, which was for a film he did in 1971, I think it was, called Pulp, with Michael Caine. And it was just an entirely different 3-minute little short film about this character, which had nothing whatsoever to do with the film, but it was brilliant. And he's like, I wish they were all like this. And I wish they were all like that. And it's only when you get something interesting, I'm trying to think of more recent ones, maybe Deadpool. They've been quite interesting. They're doing something different. They're cutting together and some original ideas. Can you think of any other more original ones that we've seen of recent times? Because
I would say that the trailer for Parasite was expertly crafted in a fact that you don't know any. You go into that trailer, you watch it, you're like, I have no idea what this film's about, but I'm ready to go.
See it, yes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, you're absolutely right, Charles. Exactly what I think a good trailer should be. That it should be like, what's that? What is that about? Who's that? What's going on there? You want all those questions. You want lots of questions, but yes.
As well. That was an amazing trailer. Yeah, the trailer for Lighthouse is awesome.
It is amazing. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was in.
I was ready.
That's all you want.
Ready to go.
But have you seen the trailer for the original trailer for Psycho? The original.
Oh yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
it's just Hitchcock going around the house saying, "Here is where the murder took place."
Very good.
It's just 3 minutes of him walking around, and it's just so good.
That's what all his trailers were. It's just him talking about the film. But then he's a product himself. He was a sellable product. That's exactly what he did. And he knew that, and he would just go up and stand in front of the camera and tell you what you should watch. I'm not going to do your impression. You should watch this film because of this, etc. This is where the murder happened, and all this kind of thing. Yeah, it was great. I mean, they were really funny because he was a funny guy in a deadpan, misogynistic,
kind of
scary kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But trailers are interesting, and so we review at least 5 every episode. I'm gonna say every week. We don't do every week now, do we? Every fortnight. Yeah. So and mostly they are awful. And I think we use the thumb method, which I'm sure you're familiar with now. the thumb up, thumb down, thumb in the middle. We keep it nice and simple. So obviously we'll explain, have a rant, and then make sure we use the thumb up. So
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. People get that, understand that. They can visualize the thumb.
It's a universal
and know which
indicator.
direction. Yes.
Unless people don't have thumbs on your viewer demographics, you should probably check that. What percentage of your viewers have a thumb?
Oh my
I'd
word,
say you start getting angry
right.
hate mail, but they probably wouldn't be able to hold a pen.
Not having a thumb would make stuff really difficult, but let's not get into that. Yeah, I've just seen the trailer you were talking about on Psycho. Yeah, this is cool. I like this. It's weird, but
The thing is, he spoils the film in it. He's like, yeah, this is the shower where the woman got stabbed. I'm like, okay, nice. Thanks, Alf. I was waiting for that.
So, but why were these good then? So, why are these trailers better than modern day trailers if he's already explaining the plot of the film and he's just like, come and see my film? Like, is it because film wasn't as developed then, or? Because I mean, the 60s was sort of a boom.
Film wasn't. It's not that film wasn't developed. It's the what a trailer wasn't as developed. So you look at advertising in general in that era, and it's very, very different to what we understand it to be now. It's far more subtle. It's far more. It's far more
intelligent.
That wasn't the word I was looking for.
That's what you were thinking.
But I was trying to be that. Yeah. I think it's far more. Subversive and submissive and also subliminal rather than actually overt and literally in your face. It is very simplistic, you're right. But if you look at other trailers of that time where they are very, very simplistic, and you also have this very loud music and you will have the voiceover explaining a lot because they didn't give audiences as much credit. I think you probably come full circle. I think, well, like I said, the 60s and 70s when they were really interesting, and then we've come full circle where we don't give our audience any credit whatsoever because we all think they are stupid. And on the whole, they are. So, judging by their tastes.
Should you create a film with the intent that imagining your audience might not get a lot of what's happening? Like, because a lot of the audience, I think, being film people that we all are, when we're watching a film, we sort of see it in a very slightly different way to how sort of a regular audience person might see it, or an audience might see it.
Those normal people, unlike us wonderfully gifted people.
No, I'm not saying that we're gifted.
No, I know what you mean.
We
do look at it from a different point of view, from a filmmaker's point of view, rather than from just an audience's point of view. We are less passive. You're absolutely right. We're looking for those tiny details. What's this about? What is the story about? What's the narrative? What's the genre? Where somebody else might just be watching it and go, oh, it's that Tom Cruise film. Does he kill people? I don't know. Maybe they are. I think perhaps that all those subtleties that we understand, you're absolutely right, of what film is and what filmmaking's about, maybe that isn't that subtle and easy to understand for regular people, as you say, regular film watchers, but actually people who don't necessarily watch film, because you, as a filmmaker, you're trying to reach a wider audience as possible, aren't you? So there'll be loads of people who don't necessarily access your type of film or films even in general. There's lots of people who don't. I know this is hard to believe. There are lots of people who don't watch films, Charlie.
Shocking.
I know.
To be honest.
Look at Juliette's face. She's stunned. Can you believe that? I know. And it's very, very strange. But lots of people watch TV and all sorts of other different media. Lots of people, my wife, only watches as many films because she's made to watch them with us, really, isn't she? She much prefers the radio and podcasts. Radio is definitely her thing. Mm-hmm. So I mean, but people, I like film. I like the immediacy of it. I love cinema. It's not just the way the stories are told, but I actually quite like the fact that it's only like on average 2 hours long. I can walk away. I really struggle with serials.
It's not like a long-term commitment. It's just apart from like Marvel or like big franchises, you can just watch like the new Ben Wheatley film and be like, okay, that's nice, that's done and dusted.
Because it was only 83 minutes long. Yeah. And
I've already spoken about this. Like,
have you?
in a way, I keep mentioning it, how I hate when films are over an hour and a half. If they're over an hour and a half and I see that they're over an hour and a half on Netflix, I'll avoid watching them. Yeah, Aarif has just mentioned in the chat, The Irishman is an awful example of how films are just getting longer and longer, not
But
necessarily.
The Irishman uses its runtime well. I made this point, and I'm sticking with it. It's like, watching it back, not a scene is wasted. Like,
I totally, right, I bet, I haven't watched it, Dylan. I haven't watched it, and I bet it is absolutely brilliant. All right, I
3 hours.
no
You have to plan your
doubt.
day around it.
It just feels like, even though 2.5 hours isn't that long, it just feels like, oh, do I have to? That seems like a lot of time.
It's a commitment.
It is.
It really, isn't it like 3.5 hours long, The Irishman?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
like,
shocking. That's despicable.
I watched the
That
first
should
half
not
an
be
hour
a
and
film.
turned it off.
Yeah.
Why?
To be honest, when I started watching it, I was like,
I have a long attention span. It's not a problem. And if I'm sat there watching a film, I am glued to it. I don't fidget about like Son 2 does, who gets bored, or even the wife. She's just as bad. That's where Son 2 gets it from. Whereas we're sat there watching this film, not moving, not making a sound, wanting to watch it all the way to the end, watching it incessantly, intently. And then they're getting bored, and you're like, well, what are you bored about? It's brilliant. There's loads of stuff happening, but it's just something about that runtime that just kind of puts you off. It's unnecessary. If it was 3.5 hours, and as you say, Dylan, that every single scene has purpose, etc. I don't doubt that. But even if it was 3 episodes in a serial, I'd still go, binging. It just feels like, even though I'll waste my time doing other things, it just feels like, I don't know, that feels like a lot.
I mean, I feel bad, honestly, for the people who did the VFX on The Irishman. 3.5 hours is, I don't know how many frames that equates to.
Yeah.
it's more than
25 frames
30,
a
let's
second.
say.
Yeah, it's more than 25 frames that they have to edit. And that is despicable more than anything.
I'm sure they got paid handsomely.
Oh, they would have, yeah.
But possibly.
Not obviously as much as the actors, but I'm sure.
I'm gonna
right.
Talking about runtime. I made a controversial statement the other day on the podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard it yet. About how I thought the original Blade Runner film was atrocious, and I hated it. And I didn't enjoy sitting there and having to watch all of it. So you guys, I don't know if you can change my mind and make me watch this film again, but I don't see the point in having. I mean, maybe it's because of the time it was made, and the VFX shots might have been impressive back then, but I feel like they take up way too much of the time, and a lot of the dialogue is massively, repetitive and boring, and the thingy, what's his name now? Harrison Ford's character is actually boring, and he's uninteresting and has no real direction in the narrative and doesn't really change anything. And yeah, apart from the last scene, I thought the whole thing was pretty boring.
Okay, so can I step in there, Dylan? So first of all, obviously to put this into context, you're an idiot. Secondly, no. Did you watch it at the screening, Charlie? Was it then you watched it?
No, I watched it at home because I was going to go to the screening.
Okay, stop there. I don't want any more. I don't want your life story. All right. No, I mean, you have to always, whenever you see any kind of film that that gets lauded or whatever, you have to put it in the context of when it was released, what was happening, what came before it. Now, with that, there's lots of problems with it. Of course there is. There are lots of problems with most films, and lots of problems with many films that are seen as classics or cult classics. And you would have been one of the many millions of people who went to see it in 1982 who also hated that film. It's not universally loved. It's become a cult classic over time. And that's because people have started to understand its importance in cinema history and why it actually changed a lot, and how much it has influenced not just other films, but filmmakers and filmmakers that have come along and created new and great products. And that's the reason. It's about the weight that has actually had in cinema history. This is the first time we see that cyberpunk aesthetic on the screen ever. And you talk about VFX, young man. There is no such thing as VFX in 1982. That everything you see is in camera. That detail, that genius of those detailed effects are models and exposed film. Do you understand the technique and the genius it takes to actually produce something that looks that realistic, that aesthetically beautiful, creating those techniques? No, you don't, because you've only used a computer and it's so easy. So that's one reason. There's another reason. The effects themselves were incredible at the time. I agree with you in terms of Harrison Ford's character being dull. Yes, he is, because that's what he was supposed to be. And we're supposed to actually ask the question, like, what?
The argument of, a character's supposed to be dull, and
because the other characters around him are supposed to be more interesting. That's the whole point.
I don't know if they are, though.
Roy Batty is the best character.
And so is Chris. Chris is also very interesting. Also, Rachel's far more interested, even though she's this child. You've also got Tyrell, who's an interesting character, his godlike complex. And then you've also got the racist cop, the boss, the captain. Everybody is more, absolutely agree. The whole point of Harrison Ford's character, and that's probably why he was cast. I'm sure he wouldn't agree with that himself, but that's probably why he was cast, because Ridley Scott wanted this character to be this. He didn't want us to root for him. We didn't want this all kind of hero. He didn't want Han Solo. He's not interested, and he's not very nice. He goes around killing people for a living because that's what they are. They're humans in robotic form because they're getting souls and everything like that. There's also, if you read the book, obviously the book is, as much as I love film, the book is always far better than the film. And Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is it's far more interesting, but it created Dick's world. And that's what he found interesting about it. Scott was able to visualize this world that we'd only ever seen in the literary world. And that literary world wasn't taken very seriously either. So to actually take a science fiction film and make it serious, because up till then, all you've got is your 1950s and 1960s flying saucer B movies, and then you've got Star Wars and the adventure stories in the 70s, and then when you get this is somebody taking the form and the genre and doing it seriously it's basically as a film noir. So
what about something like 2001: Space Odyssey? That was early 60s really, and
absolutely right, and that was the first one that ever did that, and absolutely right. And so from the effects point of view, absolutely brilliant, amazing. From it's not exactly a serious narrative though, is it? It's not like a narrative film. It is it's an exploration into the soul. It's esoteric look at what it means to be alive. It's the meaning of life basically in 2.5 hours. And I love 2001. It's absolutely beautiful. But it's also like a Tree of Life. Have you seen Tree of Life? Terrence Malick's also his contemplation on what the meaning of life is, which starts with the Big Bang. That's the very first scene, and then goes to dinosaurs, and then goes to Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain having marriage troubles, which is incredible. But it's all about what does it mean to actually be human. And so a lot of those questions are put forward in that. So in terms of like it being similar to 2001, there is in terms of themes of like what it means to have a soul, what does it mean to be human. So there are definitely themes there, but it was something that it did it in a very different way, in a different aesthetic, and from a genre point of view, rather than actual an art house film, which is basically what 2001 is.
Yeah,
I'm not going to convince you. You don't have to like it, and I'm absolutely okay with that. And I know lots of people didn't like the sequel either. But
the new Blade Runner film?
Yeah, the new one. Yeah.
Lots of people 2049 to the original.
You prefer it?
Same.
Unpopular opinion, but
no. I know lots of people like that. Didn't like.
Never mind then.
my children also, Harris also prefers the new one as well, and I can see that. But I also know that lots of people who like the original didn't like the new one, so it tends to be the other way around, really. But I mean, I like both films. I think they're both are really interesting and really, I have a fondness for them. But of course, you've also got to remember the evolution of that film as well, Charlie, because you've just seen the final cut, I presume, have you?
I know that there was a lot of controversial changes made to the final scene.
That's putting it lightly.
The version I've seen, oh man, because there was the final scene where he's on the roof, and then it just goes. It's like a hard cut to like them in this other place. Oh god, I can't even remember now. Like I feel like it was a weird fever dream sitting down and watching that film. I don't know which version I've actually seen because I did it
have a voiceover
at the end
all the way through?
No.
So. Did it have a unicorn dream sequence?
Oh my god, I think it might have done.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, there are 4 official versions, okay, that were released theatrically. All right.
Yeah.
So you had what was originally what was called a print work, which was very similar to the director's cut, okay, which was released in 91 or something like that. I can't remember. And that had basically that was Ridley Scott's version of the film, so which was eventually released as the director's cut. So that was his version. It bombed, and the numbers when they did test screenings were awful, and people hated it. A bit like you, everybody hated it, and they said, "Oh, what are we going to do? Excuse me, what are they going to do with this now?" And then what they did was they tacked on a happy ending, and a lot of the footage they used from that happy ending was taken from Shining outtakes that they didn't use. So lots of forest aerial shots from helicopter of them running away together in the daylight, in the sunshine, all happy, off to live together in a happy ever after. And they removed the dream sequence of the unicorn because everybody goes, what's that? What's going on there? It's a unicorn. What's going on?
It was weird.
And then
wasn't the unicorn footage taken from another film Ridley Scott did? Where it's like
Legend.
That's the one, yeah, where Tim Curry plays the devil.
Yeah, it's from Legend, yeah. So I mean, but it's obviously it's his thing and it's his idea. And then people are like, we don't understand it, we don't know what's going on, we don't get it. All right, it's really confusing. So they stuck this voiceover all the way through the film of Harrison Ford basically telling you what he's doing and explaining it, exposition all the way through. So, yes, I'm a Blade Runner. That's the type of person who's a bit like a detective in your day, but when I killed robots, that is literally what it was about. That version was released in 1982 to the theatres, to cinemas, and we didn't know any different. That's what was originally at cinemas, this kind of detective noir sci-fi thing, and everybody went to the cinema to see it. So in the first weekend it did really well because everyone went to see Han Solo in Indiana Jones. Everybody's going, what the hell is this? This is not what we signed up for. We want space killing and things like that. What's going on? We want whips and hairy friends, things like that. But it wasn't happening. And everybody's going, it's rubbish, it's boring. A bit like what you just said, Charlie. And then they were idiots as well. And then it absolutely bombed and it fell off and it was never to be seen again until it starts to get this kind of reputation of like, oh, I remember that film. And like, yeah. And then we have the advent of home domestic film watching, VHS. Okay. And then people start watching it on that and they go, oh yeah, it's all right, yeah. It's all right, it's quite good. It's a bit different. I don't think we got it to begin with because audiences' taste changed, as you know. And then, like you said, after this, they realised, I think it's, was it Sony Columbia, I think who owns it? They said, oh, we could make some money out of this if we do another release. And they turned back to Ridley Scott, the director, who was thrown off set on the last day and wasn't allowed anywhere near the goddamn film. They said, do you want to do your version then? And we'll re-release it. on DVD, this new format. And they're like, yeah, okay. And so he cut together the director's cut. That's still not the version you've seen. So what the director's cut did was it replaced the unicorn tree sequence. I mean, do we get the unicorn tree sequence? It's more a reference to the actual book, and the book explains that he is a replicant. Yeah, I mean, spoilers, but Deckard is a replicant. He's a robot himself. And that's why he has these strange dreams, because he has the conversation with her about implants, about memories. They're not real. And he has them himself. He is a replicant. That's it. No matter what Harrison Ford says.
Because that's what when I watched the film, that's what I understood it as. I understood the film as, oh, he is a robot as well. But I feel like they didn't really go down that route. Like, they didn't go down the route I expected. I thought they'd go, like, it would end with him sort of, realizing himself that he's a robot and being like, oh, but it sort of didn't. Oh, sorry, I swore.
I think that's because, like, apparently everyone on the cast and crew were like, Deckard's a human, apart from Ridley Scott. And all the writers and all the producers were like, no, he's definitely human. Ridley Scott went, no, but what if? And he said, no, he's a human. So he's like, okay, he's a human. And then when I think Ridley Scott did the cut where he suggests Deckard is a replicant, the writers and producers got in big hissy fits saying, like, if he was a replicant, we would have teased it. We would have wove it through the story, unless I've, like, got the wrong.
I mean, it's
no,
weird,
you're absolutely
when
right.
When I watched it, I felt like straight away I thought, this dude, he is definitely a replicant. Like, there's no way, which is why I think I maybe didn't enjoy it as much, because I expected it to go a totally different way, and it's sort of to be an explanation into Harrison Ford's character, and that he would sort of blossom at the end. It'd be like, oh my god, he's a robot the whole time. Oh, what a twist. But it sort of didn't, and sort of petered out.
I think Dylan's right, Charlie. The fact is, the people making the film, I am convinced the only person who read the goddamn original source material is Ridley Scott. Nobody else did. Nobody else got it, which is why you get this confused message in the original and basically the actual original thing. But if you'd read the book anyway and you got it and you'd understood it, then you look at something from a very different point of view. It was something with the new film, with Denis Villeneuve's 2049. So a well-respected member at staff at Salford University, nobody in our department, by the way, we're talking very high up, all right, who I know, all right, an associate dean. Now, she watched it and she was appalled at how sexist it was. And I can totally understand her reading of that film, of 2049, being this sexist film, because when you look at all the female characters, one's a domestic slave who makes his dinner and he's just there for his pleasure. The other one is an actual prostitute. The other one is this psychopathic killer, but he's also like a slave as well to the. So you totally understand it. But actually, that's, again, not understanding the source material, because actually the only female character in that film is the chief of police. Now, you can't say that that is a sexist character, because she isn't. So Robin Wright's character, the chief of police, is the only female character because everybody else is a goddamn robot. They're not human. They're not real. And that's the point. When Dick wrote those stories back in the 60s, yes, obviously it was a very different world. But he took his source material of understanding what robots were as being slaves. So he used every single slave model there is throughout history, that the women were domestic and sex and the men were worker drones. And that's what replicants are. They're not human beings. They're not women and they're not men. They're robots. And they are drones and they are workers and they are slaves. And that's exactly what it is. So I can understand why she thought that, but I didn't get that. And I didn't feel that this was a horribly sexist film. And then you also look at the director as well. Is he a sexist director? This is not goddamn Transformer guy. This is not some guy who likes to put a camera on a girl's arse just for the sake of it. This is a guy whose previous two films, if you just look at the two films he did before there, were Arrival and were Sicario, which are two films based on an incredibly strong female, interesting character. So clearly he's not a sexist director. So that reading of that film is her reading of it and her interpretation of it, and it's correct, but that's because you don't understand the source material. But if you're not putting across that source material in a way that you understand that this could be seen like that, then you do have a problem, don't you? I didn't get that, but I could see what a lot of people do. And I think you're getting mixed messages, and there's nothing wrong with obviously, that your personal response to the original Blade Runner of Charlie is absolutely correct. From whatever your experiences are, from your understanding, and from your liking of what you like, and the way you like stories, and the way you like films to be made, I can totally understand why you don't like it, because it's far from perfect.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm sort of playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, because I know how many people do love the original Blade Runner film, and it's the same with all these cult classic films. But I like films like Brazil, which are obviously pretty weird as well, and
that follows exactly the same model as Blade Runner. That was absolutely panned, and people loved it. I love Brazil.
It's a weird film, but here's the thing. I sort of enjoyed Blade Runner, and I'm playing devil's advocate because I know it would create.
Didn't you describe it as dog shite the other day?
I did, but that was because I knew it would trigger some people. I sort of do these things just to, I'm trying to get viewers on the podcast, guys. Cut me some slack. Like this is
your big tactic. I'm gonna slide off popular films, and then people will listen.
Yeah, because then they'll want to hear me get destroyed by people like Steven and Dylan, and just like telling me how much better the film is than my small brain can obviously handle.
But I mean. Yeah, but clearly, I like lots of rubbish films anyway. There's loads of. There's no need to nod and agree. All right. So, but
go on, Harris. Spill the beans. What does he? What is it?
Give us a few examples.
Recently,
go on. It's a whole litany of historical awfulness. Go on.
Well, let me think.
Okay, you have a think about that. I can tell you some that I've thought, I'll put these films on, because I obviously like to educate my children in the ways of cinema. And sometimes it goes all right, sometimes it goes horribly wrong. And these are, like you say, I think of like cult classics like Buckaroo Banzai. Have you ever seen Buckaroo Banzai and his Adventures Across the Eighth Dimension? Okay, with Peter Weller. All right. Now that, to me, I'm thinking, surely 2 teenage boys are going to like that. And everybody hated it. And I was like, oh, no, you can't hate that. It's great. And on hindsight, yeah, it's rubbish. But it doesn't mean I don't like it. I know Star Wars. There you go. You're talking about controversial. I know Star Wars. All the Star Wars films are rubbish. But it doesn't mean I don't like them.
They're just fun.
It's a kid's film, for Christ's sake. In 1977, when Star Wars comes out, I am 8 years old. I've just dated myself, haven't I? I am 8 years old. All right?
Oh,
I am prime Star Wars fodder. And this changed so many children's lives at the time, because we didn't have anything like that. And we dragged the old man to see it. Me and our kid dragged the old man to see it 3 times at the cinema, big long queues. You can't put a value on anything like that. I know it's a piece of garbage when it comes to actual cinema and storytelling and direction and everything else. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy it. And I've watched it thousands of times. And there's nothing wrong with those kind of... It's about understanding that I like this. I don't like people when they say, oh, it's a brilliant film. It's one of the best films ever. No, you mean you like it. I know you like the Fast and Furious films. That's fine. But they're not the best films ever. Let's not Citizen Kane. Shut up. All right. So it's just about the language you use. So it's just like, yeah, I love that film. It's great. I really, really enjoy it. Not, that's the greatest film I've ever seen. No, it's Ghost. Shut up.
I think if you don't enjoy bad films, you have no soul. Because like Charlie's Angels 2 Full Throttle is one of the best films I've ever seen, and it's also one of the worst films I've ever seen. I gave it like, I think 1.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd, but it's still one of the best films I've ever seen. Like, it's ingrained in my mind how
you thoroughly
fantastic
enjoy it.
It is.
You've got a different pleasurable experience
Yeah,
out of it.
exactly.
You start watching it going, this is so awful, it's great.
You don't have to enjoy a film. You don't have to sit down and be like, oh yes, this really reminds me of what it means to be human. No, just watch people doing spin kicks and getting slammed into the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We watched, me and our kid watched loads of Hong Kong cinema as kids, just kung fu movies, really badly dubbed. But that wasn't the point. We're not watching them for performances and storyline. We're watching them for people getting kicked in the face. That's what we're watching for.
I have I actually have an interesting question for Harris. Has Harris ever seen a lot of the films that we have made as students? Because I'd be interesting to hear what his opinions are of like student films and like, because obviously we have a lot of interaction with student film, because obviously our entire course is based around it. But like, you know, someone who's not actually on the course, like, do you see these student films?
No. Sorry. I haven't. Have I?
You've seen what?
Have I?
Yeah. Which one did I show you?
Is that
Show
a
you
good
one of
reason
last
or bad
year?
Oh,
reason?
yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Fantopia.
Fantopia.
You've seen
saw
Fantopia?
Ah, ooh.
Yeah, that
very
one
good.
that one sort of. Do you guys what did you think? What did you think of Fantopia?
I liked it.
I mean, who listens to this? So, in terms of student filmmaking, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of cinematography, including the technical aspects, including production design, it's absolutely fantastic. In terms of storytelling, it's not my favourite, let's say. All right, but it's a little bit pedestrian. It is a little bit muddled. But I know how hard it is to make a film, and that is incredible for a group of young people to put that together on limited resources, and to put something together like that. And there's been a lot of good films like that, and there would have been a lot more, but unfortunately, they're not got finished yet. But
I mean, I want to say that the Fantopia, I didn't realize it's actually on YouTube now. It's been released on YouTube finally. It's this in February, so pretty recently. So if people want to go watch that, it is online now. I think because it's done its sort of little film festival round, hasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Did it sort of last year, summer, I assume, and sort of the winter time.
Yeah.
Last year, yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, Charlie. Let's support past, our alumni and help them out.
Yeah, because I assume they're going, and obviously they're going on to do other things now. Yeah, I mean, like Harris, are you interested in getting into a film like this, or what's your sort of route? Because obviously you guys are doing your podcast, and yeah, like, is this where you want to go, or?
I'm not sure yet, but I'm interested in film, but I don't know if that's the sort of thing I want to do as a career. You know?
You've done some animations and stuff, haven't you? You got a mate who also writes.
Yeah,
You've done writing. Don't be so shy. Just tell them what you've done.
I did Lego animations when I was like 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like those. They're good, actually. I've seen loads of them recently online because people can't really do anything else. So people are doing Lego animations as like a way
escapism.
Yeah, escapism. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Imagine yourself as a tiny little plastic man. Just playing.
I mean, there's lots of. You're lucky nowadays that you've got all the capabilities of being able to do things at home. Getting a DSLR, editing equipment, and you can shoot stuff even with your phone and things like that. I mean, we're looking at what's his face, Soderbergh, and the films he shot on iPhone and things like that. Entire feature films. So there's no excuse for it other than to actually do it and to practice it and to understand it and try and get. Well, I mean, it was not back in my day. We had Super 8 film, and although it was a lot harder. Because I'll explain to you again, Charlie, about the differences between film and digital, shall I? Because you struggle with that.
Do you want me to bring up a quote that you actually made to us in the first year?
Not really, but go on.
Film. The quote went something along the lines of, "Film is alchemy. It's wizard shit," is what you said in one of our classes.
That sounds like one of my classes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that person. Okay, whoever said that, they're obviously very clever, and absolutely right. It is. It's incredible. It's light and chemicals creating images. It's not digital technology. It's something very, very different. It's still storytelling, and it's all that part of it is still exactly the same. But the medium is very, very different. And of course, we had no sound either. We had to record separate sound on a tape recorder and try and sync it up afterwards. And I'm not just talking about syncing it up as in playback. I've seen like literally playback at the same time. So you have to press play on the tape recorder and press play on the projector to try and get it in sync. And even then, it's still by the end of it because you've got two machines that are working at different speeds. So it still wouldn't be right.
to do tape bed editing, honestly. If I had grown up in that generation, that would have been my I would have loved to.
I do
Not
feel
even to
quite
test
lucky.
whether you're. Sorry, go on.
Well,
I was going to say.
Go on. You go first. Then, please.
Thank you. Sorry. Not even to test if you're good at it or not. Just to have a big desk with all the wheels. Like, yes, I feel like a spaceship pilot or something.
Yeah,
it was. I feel incredibly lucky to be able to have gone from film and analog audio editing to then analog video editing and tape to tape stuff. And then into actual digital. So I was very lucky to go through those three phases as and when they were happening. I was very, very lucky in that respect. And I'm quite pleased that I got to learn all those different things. I really do appreciate digital and how it makes your life so much easier, because it was so hard. But what that did for us as filmmakers who learned the old ways, not to sound like a Jedi or something, all right, but we had discipline, so we wouldn't just shoot. I always remember a photographer friend of mine who would just go like willy-nilly, just fling his camera about and everything like that. But of course, I learned my photography at 35mm, and you know, you'd have to get your exposure right and you have your light meter out, and you'd do it properly like you do with film. And he'd just be taking pictures. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, at least focus the damn thing. What are you doing there? Have you not even checked anything? Do it manual. And he'd be like, I'll sort it out in Photoshop. I'm like, no, just take a proper photograph. What are you talking about? But that's the beauty of it. But it also makes us lazy because we know we can sort it out, Mr. VFX, afterwards. You know, and that's actually, you know, you talk about like The Irishman and how much work they had to do. I wonder how much extra work VFX people have to do in correcting mistakes rather than actually just adding new and interesting things to an actual film. You know, color correction. Why is the color correction? Why does that exist? Just freaking get it right. Get your color temperatures right. Just so, you know, just take your time.
These are convenience things though, more than anything, because then if you have made a mistake, you know, there is always that option to do it later. And that I think you know, it's good because obviously it can get people like us involved, which maybe not necessarily, because film has started, you know, as a very niche, very like elitist thing, really, honestly, you know, only certain people could do it. But now, you know, everyone has a phone, everyone can make film. Like you say, we can all record something. It's obviously just, the quality's not the same as a real film, but like, you know, I made films on my phone when I was younger. I made, you know, why not? Because you can, like, a lot of the things I shot were not great, but you know, I enjoyed it, and it's a good sort of pathway now that you can get into doing film now. Better than
I totally agree. I like the democratization of equipment being available in every single person. The socialist in me loves that everybody can do it. But then there's the artist in me going, no, I don't want to wade through a load of shite on the YouTube. I still want the quality as well. But so I'm kind of conflicted with both things because I really love both aspects of it. I love the artistry of it, but I also love the democratization of everybody being able to do it, because it shouldn't just be about white, privileged, middle-class people who get to go into film school that should do it. So I am torn between that, but I also want stuff to be good rather than garbage. All right, so I don't know.
Well, there you go. That's the thing. We're getting towards the hour now. I'd like everyone to recommend a quarantine film for our listeners to watch, and everyone has to be involved.
That's a good question.
Quarantine film recommendation.
You'll see me and Harris now going to our phones because we log everything. He uses Letterboxd. I'm sure you use the same. I just put mine on a list because I'm old school. Right, let's have a quick look. I might need the spectacles on. Hang on a sec.
Dylan, do you wanna start? Because you seem like you've got.
The most recent one I watched is Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the Coen Brothers one. It's got a bit of a pretentious title, but not a very pretentious film. It's just
wonderful film with a wonderful soundtrack.
Beautiful. It's just fun. It's just good to sit back and watch George Clooney and John Turturro, how do you pronounce his surname? Sorry. In like 1930s prison onesies running across fields, being chased by John Goodman wearing an eye patch. It's just fun. And a good summer film as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's
A
sweaty.
good fun time. Yeah.
I think I might have seen it, brother.
And incredibly quotable.
Sure is. Well, ain't this place just a geographical oddity? 2 weeks from everywhere. There you go. Juliette, what's yours?
Nice.
I'm going to recommend Fighting with My Family. It's on Netflix. It's just a nice feel-good film during quarantine. It's got Florence Pugh, Nick Frost, and Stephen Merchant in. It's a great film. I like it. It's very funny.
It also has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's another reason to watch it, then, isn't there?
What a guy.
What about you, Shelley?
What am I recommending?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm gonna loop back to what we said before, and I'm gonna recommend that everyone goes and watch Fantopia to support our student filmmakers.
Yes.
So yeah, last week I recommended the last episode I recommended Jeremiah's film. This time, Fantopia. Student films. Go watch student films because some of them are actually good. So please support us. Thank you.
Yeah. Harris?
I'm going to recommend Chef, the film Chef.
Ooh, Chef.
Johnny Favreau.
Why?
Yeah. Why?
It's a good film.
It's good. There you go. This is how reviews films.
It's good.
What is it about you today? You're like really quiet and shy.
I'm sorry.
You're not like this when we're just me and you. You're there insulting me, dissing me.
I can insult you if you want.
Please do. Okay.
I feel like we've missed out on this while I was getting roasted for not liking. You should have been, backing me up here, Harris.
I enjoy Blade Runner. I think it's pretty good.
You became Stephen's prime target for roasting.
I mean, he didn't describe it as dog shite.
What can I say?
Anyway,
Stephen, what film are you recommending?
Right, well, before I say one that I recommend, I can a couple of things that I don't recommend. Ralph Breaks the Internet. I will watch anything. I will watch absolutely anything. I also watched, because we got Disney Plus, did we? We thought, yes, we're going to watch Disney Plus. It's going to be on there. Baby Yoda, all that kind of crap. So I thought, and I'm flicking through the old films, and I saw The Black Hole, which was a 1979 sci-fi film starring Ernest Borgnine, Psycho himself, Anthony Perkins, and it was Disney's answer to Star Wars at the time. I would recommend, if you want to be bored out of your mind, but also watch it and think, this is the special effects I have ever seen in my life, I recommend you watch The Black Hole. It is both incredibly awful and incredibly dull all at one time. And I was thinking, I remember enjoying this as a child, but I didn't. I think I misremembered.
They should put that whole review on the back of the DVD.
I will recommend two films. A nice little short, sort of quirky indie detective film called The Zero Effect, starring Bill Pullman and Ben Stiller. I recommend that. And the other one would be Monsters, the little indie sci-fi film by that Welsh fella, Gareth Edwards. Okay, there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just going to read out what we've got in the meeting chat. So Aarif recommends Ghost Stories on BBC iPlayer, guys. Hopefully you're paying for your TV licenses, because otherwise the BBC, they'll come get you. Copycat. Lucy recommends Copycat on Amazon Prime. It's got Sigourney Weaver. It's a psychological thriller. I don't know anything else about it apart from that. So yeah, there you go. That's our film recommendations for this episode. Again, thank you everyone for coming on and putting me in my place. Truly, obviously I was misinformed.
Just before you go, Charlie, if you do want movie recommendations, I have posted on Blackboard on the second year post, yes, a film per day on Freeview. I've done that for every single week. Clearly you're not looking at it, but that's fine. Maybe somebody has. There'll be something on there.
Somebody has.
Something for everybody. Okay.
There you go. Go and watch films, guys. That's the moral of this story. Yeah, thank you, Papa Biggs and Sun One. As always, I hope your guys' podcast continues on with, as much steam as it always has. It's continue making them. They're very good.
There'll be a new one available next week. So listen out, Papa Big Show.
Awesome. Yeah, do you want to plug it anymore?
I just did.
Anyway.
Do the thing. Do the thing.
I've not done the thing in a while.
Do the thing now. Go do the thing.
Twitter at @sets_radio. Sets Radio on Facebook. We don't have Sets Radio anymore.
Okay then.
It's been so long since we've done the
Facebook,
thing.
Twitter, YouTube. Just find us. Just as you said earlier on in the show.
Yep.
Google Papa Biggs.
And do the same with the Film Production Podcast. Come and listen to it. Get more people involved. Tell your mum. Tell your dog. Tell your kids. I don't know. They might be interested.
Dog, obviously.
Stand on a milk crate in the street, shout, "Hello, listen to the University of Salford Film Production Podcast."
Do it while just after the NHS clapping's finished. Go and shout into the street. Everyone's there. They're listening. They'll be
At 8
interested.
o'clock tonight, let's clap for the University of Salford Film Production Podcast.
And also appreciate your NHS workers as well.
That as well.
Stay at home and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Juliette.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Later.